Well, hello, welcome again to a reading through of Odyssey Book 2, and I got up to line 35. So we've just had the speech of the old man Aigyptios, and Telemachos is now going to rise to speak. Hos fatikairete feme Odysseus philos huios, ud eti den hestomenoi ne sen de agoruen, ste de mese agore, skeptron de hoi ebale kairi, kerux pesainor pepes mina media edos. Proton epeta geronta catatomenos prosepen. Thus he spoke, and the dear son of Odysseus rejoiced. This is probably an imperfect here from Cairo without augment. Pheme is an interesting word. It means a speech, but it's generally a portentous speech. It's a speech which is almost oracular. So I might just say portentous speech here. Ud ar etidain haste, nor, fittingly, haste did he sit still, well, did he remain seated, dain, for a long time. So nor did he remain seated for a long time, but menoi nesen, and we've had that word in the earlier section here, from menoi nao, to desire. So he desired to speak, to address the assembly, agoruain. Stede mese agora, he stood in the middle of the gathering. I mentioned before, agora, probably not marketplace at this stage, it's just a place of gathering, connected with the verb agero. Skeptron de hoi embalikairi, so the herald Peisanoi, literally cast or threw the scepter to the hand for him. So in other words, we might just say placed for embale. When you speak in the assembly, you have to have the scepter in your hand, which clever speakers would use as a prop as well, but it also signified the person who had the authority to speak. So the herald Peisanor placed the herald in his hand. Pepnumena media edos. This is a participle. It only occurs in this form. It's etymologically probably connected with that peneo of breathing and so on. Can have the sense of inspired. So it's here, knowing, inspired media thoughts. So Lattimore has a beautiful rendering here, which I looked up. He says it's a man of deep discretion. It's a lovely rendering of this one. It's one knowing, thoughtful thoughts or plans, media. Proton epe to geronta kaptomenos prosepe. So firstly then, kath haptomenos, this is from kata plus haptomai. It's to grab hold of, but in a positive sense, sort of fastening onto the old man. He addressed him. So he might have put his arm around his shoulder or showed some sign of affection to him. So fastening himself onto the old man, he replied, pros e pen. We get a repeated epsilon here to get an extra syllable for the sake of the meter. O geron uk hekas hutos aner, takadesiai autos, hos laon egera, malista de malgos hikane. I might just pause there. So, O old man, this is an vocative from Geron, shortens to Geron. So, O old man, that man because in his earlier speech, the old man had said, "Who has brought us here? Who has got some knowledge that requires us to gather together," and so on. So he says, that man, Uk Hekas, is not far away. So the man you've been asking about is not far away. Taka de ACI autos, and you yourself, this is from oida, it's a future form from oida. It's connected with that aid root, and the delta disappears before the sigma, and we get uncontracted forms here. It would be alpha iota in later Greek, I think. So taka here, soon, I think. So you yourself will soon know. So that man is not far away, who has gathered together from Agero, the Laon, the people, the host. So old man, that old man, that man who is not far away, and soon you yourself will know who he is, the man who has gathered together the people. Malista me algos hikane, pain or grief hikane comes upon me, malista most of all. Ute tin angelian stratu ekluon erkominoio, hein humin safa epo, hote proteros ge puthoime. Uteti de ademion alla pifauskamai ud agaruo, al emon autu kreos homoi kakon empesinoiko, doia. Tomen pater estelon, apolisa hospot en humin, tois desin basilue, pater de hos Aigyptios aen. Now he repeats much of what was said before. He was asked before whether he had some new information he wished to share, and so Telemachos says no. So neither was I hearing from Cluo some report, some message of an army coming. I mentioned before whether it's the army coming back, returning back from Troy, which is what the Scholiast thinks it is, which I might speak clearly to you. And as I mentioned before, the chi here is an aspirated kappa for ke, with the subjunctive. So which I might speak clearly to you. When indeed I would have perceived it, proteros first of all. So when I was the first to find out about it or to perceive it. And then he repeats this again from earlier with slight changes. Nor pifauskamai am I revealing or discussing some other daimion, some other public matter. Allah, but emon autu kreos homoi kalon epicent oiko. But now the so kreos, but my need of him the autu must be in here, in this place. But my need in this place, a need which, or an evil which has fallen on the house for me. So a trouble which has fallen upon my house. So I think the autu here must be it's emon autu. I think that's for em autu, but a need of myself. That's what I'm missing there, sorry. You sometimes get this in Homer. It would be em autu in later Greek, but in other words, a personal need, and the hoti here is in as much as, I think, hoti for hot for hoti. So in as much as evil has fallen upon the house for me. Doya, a double evil. Tomen patera esthlon apolise, for I have lost my noble father on the one hand, and we're going to get a debt down here. No, we're going to get a debt here, actually balancing it. So, for I have lost my noble father, who once ruled among you. Now, the tois desi is just an extended form of tois de. So they've actually put a double dative ending. You get the tois dative, and then they've got a third declension dative ending as well. This happens in Homer. So it's a double dative. It's simply tois de for you lot here. So who once ruled you lot among you lot here, and he was, understand, to you, he was gentle to you like a father. Hos with this accent means as, and it often comes post the word it refers back to. So he was gentle, understand, to you like a father. So perhaps I should just quickly do that again, having done it a bit slowly there. So for grief most comes upon me most of all, neither have I heard some report of an army coming, nor which I might speak clearly to you. Indeed, so when I had perceived, in fact, when I was the first one to learn of it, nor will I reveal or discuss some other public matter, but it is a need of myself, a personal need. Hoti, inasmuch as an evil thing has fallen to the house for me, so fallen upon my house, dative of the possessor, a double evil that's been held over by enjambment for emphasis. For on the one hand I have lost a noble father who once ruled over you lot, ruled among you lot here, and he was gentle to you like a father. Non de, and I think that's the debt balancing the men there, non de ao kai polumesdon, hode taka oikon hapanta panko dia reise, bioton da popampan olese. But now, moreover, also there is a much greater thing. Again, that hot, inasmuch of, in fact, taka, soon, hapan to oikon, a much greater thing which will very much, diarese is to destroy, which will there is something much greater which will soon completely destroy, perhaps rip apart, my entire house, and will destroy utterly, it's perhaps the pampan, my livelihood. The apo is a preverb or temesis, if you will, with olumi, so apolumi, to destroy. Pampan adverbial, completely, bioton, my livelihood. So just to quickly do that again. So on the one hand I've lost my noble father, who once ruled among you lot here. He was gentle to you like a father, but now, moreover, there is something much greater. I've got to supply, there is something much greater, perhaps which here, which soon will very much tear apart all my house and completely destroy my bioton, my livelihood, my means of life. Me teremoi menesteres epikraon uk etheluse. The suitors. Now the main verb here is epikraon, which literally normally means, it's from it normally means to attack or assail, perhaps sometimes here rendered beset, or perhaps force themselves on might be better. For the suitors are forcing, well, it's imperfect, were forcing themselves on the mother for me, on my mother, uk ethelusi, she not being willing. It's a dative agreeing with martere. So against my mother's wishes, the suitors are forcing themselves on her. And these are the tone andron philoi huios hoi en thardigesi aristoi. Hoi patros men esoi con epirigasi ne estai. Ikari u hos au tose ed no sai tothugatra. Doi do ketheloi kai hoi kekarismenos elthoi. Thus, the dear sons of the men who, in fact, now don't forget these little particles, they're very important here, who were in fact the best men enthadi here. So the hoi, who, now the main verb here is aporigasi. It's from, so it means to shrink back from, so to shrink, they shrank back from going into the house of her father Aigyptios. Just to do this bit again, so the dear sons of the men who here were the best, in fact, who refrained or shrank back from going into the house of her father Aigyptios, so that he himself, now the verb here is ednoamai, which means to give in marriage, can also mean to take bride gifts, I think, but I'll just say give in marriage, so that he himself might give his daughter in marriage, and he might give it to whomever etheloi, optative, he wished, and whoever might, and he might, and whoever might come, kekarismenos, most favourably, hoi to him. So just to quickly repeat that little section. So these are the dear sons of the men, those who were the best here, in fact, who shrank from going into the house of her father Aigyptios, so that he himself might give his daughter in marriage, and he might give it to whomever he wanted to, and that also the elthoi must be the person that is going to marry her. He might come most favourably to him, that is to Aigyptios. And that's the end of this section of Book 2.